3,877. That is how many children were served in New Jersey by 1,896 volunteers in 2018. 3,877 served, yet 10,900 children were in foster care in New Jersey alone. These are children that, through no fault of their own, have become part of an overburdened child welfare system. They deserve a voice in the courtroom. They need a CASA volunteer. CASA advocates can be anyone and everyone.
I was the homemaker for 16 years.
I'm a semi-retired school psychologist.
Working with children.
Retired now, but I was a special ed teacher for many years and a learning consultant, which is on a child study team, meaning I did academic testing for children in elementary and middle school.
I'm a retired social worker. I worked in social services and mental health, both as a clinician and in administration.
And I taught at a Christian school. I taught kindergarten.
Currently, I'm in marketing and development.
And I'm working as a behavior specialist consultant on an extended acute care unit in inpatient psych.
I am an administrative assistant at a mental health and addiction service facility.
They are your neighbors, your teachers, your coworkers, your friends. People you trust and listen to, all with a reason to help children within the system.
I've always had a compassion for children, people in general, to help those who need it.
So I used to be a resource parent, and ever since then I've wanted to get back into helping kids.
I've worked with children for a while. I also have had my own history of trauma as a child, and so my hope was that I could become an advocate and support a child who was going through adversity in the system and in their transition through the foster care system, and just make sure that they had someone there to kind of speak for them and make sure that that transition went as smoothly as possible, in terms of making sure they had resources and just someone that, could listen, because you talk to a lot of people, I've learned through this process, and having someone consistently through the process and having someone there to listen, I think is very, very important.
I've always had a heart for children that were hurting, and some of it is from my childhood, negative things that happened in my early childhood years, and I had no one. So this gives me the opportunity to help a child that has no one.
Well, I wanted to do something within retirement to stay connected with children, but I didn't want to really go back to the schools. I wanted to do something, and I really hadn't had too much experience with the legal system and foster care, so it seemed like a place I wanted to be.
I thought it was a good opportunity to use my skills. After retiring, I was familiar with the mental health system and the courts, and it was just an interesting opportunity to be able to keep my skills sharp while still being retired.
I like helping people.
I grew up with my mother having foster children, and so I had a soft spot in my heart already for that. And seeing that as I got older and had the opportunity and the time, I wanted to do something that in some way helped children who didn't feel they belonged anywhere.
Through these advocates, the courts are able to gather information on what the child needs to be safe and help them secure a permanent home. 82% of the children served were under the age of 15. Children that tend to feel no one is listening or that their voice doesn't matter because they are so young. These children need a voice, and that voice is provided by CASA advocates. These children tend to be in care for over a year, with 86% of children being cared for more than a 12-month period. 33% of children end up spending 36 months or more in care. With CASA, children are more likely to find a safe home at the end of their case. 50% of CASA cases end with a reunification, while 26% end with an adoption. It is CASA's drive to ensure that in the end, the child is safe and that their wishes are heard and considered. CASA is not just to simply help children be heard in court and find the right place for them to live, but also to help them grow. Education neglect is one of several reasons children fall behind socially. Advocates are also able to help children stay on track in school with programs that help them focus on their education.
I helped a child through her education goals by attending an IEP meeting.
Oh, it's a blessing. I have one of them. He got a 4-year scholarship to Rowan, 4-year room and board. I was going to the high school, checking out his grades. He kept his grades up and everything, but he graduated this year from Paulsboro High School, and that was the most blessing that you could ever see a child get, going through what they go through and to end up keeping the grades up and getting a scholarship. Give me back.
And we've worked with some very good people in the schools, counselors and psychologists and so forth, and they've been really helpful for the most part.
Well, we are able to sit in on the meetings, which is excellent, the IEP meetings and things like that. And yes, we have seen progress in several of the children. And what's great, I believe Ed spoke about the school counselors. They are so open and willing to help these children and willing to work with us also and share the needs with us, and we can give suggestions and they're open to them.
Simply because a child is in foster care does not mean they cannot achieve greatness in anything they put their mind to. Becoming an advocate is simple and easy. As an advocate, one will learn how to be the best advocate they can be by learning all they can about the child and their family and life. Engage with the child during regular visits. You will also make recommendations regarding the child's placement and needed services while collaborating with others to ensure that necessary services are provided with the best interests of the child. Finally, you will report what you have learned and observed in court. While this may sound like a lot to remember, the training will help guide you with each step and provide you with the information and the network you need to ensure that you are the best you can be for the children you advocate for. CASA training is there to show advocates the resources they need and how to deal with general situations. Listen to why advocates enjoyed the training.
The camaraderie. I was with like-minded people, and so we could laugh and learn together.
The training was that if you had a question, I liked it because I learned a lot. I enjoy learning, but I seen a lot of children, young people within the program and how they came back and they told how great it was for them. That was my main, what I like looking at. If they didn't have that advocate, they wouldn't know where they would be right now. But they was able to come and someone was on YouTube speaking about the best thing that could have happened in their life.
I wanted to know how to write the reports, what to include in the reports, because the reports I used to write for schools were going to be different, and I didn't know, in terms of the courts and the legal system, what information would a judge want to know. So I was guided and trained on, what are the things to put in this report, and not to be so wordy on the background or something that I might have done. So just to know what CASA expects and what do the courts expect.
The training helped me with understanding the role and what CASA's mission was and how to apply that within the legal system and the social service system.
It was very thorough. I made some good friends through training that have stayed, through the years. And any questions you had were met. And I also enjoyed the part where it was role playing. We would role play about a different situation, take different characters and see how we would respond to different situations. So that was good.
The training was fun because you're with all different kinds of people. So it's not, and these people are volunteers. So at the end of the day, it's people who really want to be there, which is always good. It's people who have a heart to help, which, generally is always a good thing in your group of friends, no matter, what you're doing. but I think we had a lot of fun, and it was also good because when you had to deal with the hard stuff, and, there's definitely, a side of it that, really, the things that you see, you need people who have that heart to help, to support you and to be with you as you are kind of learning about the different things that happen. So I think forming that bond with those people was, a really good experience, and it was helpful overall in managing what you would be getting into and seeing as you went on and became an advocate.
When I think about my training class, and I've stayed in contact with a few people, I kind of like that there were so many different people from different different backgrounds. So I was sitting in my training and I was sitting next to a mail carrier and a cosmetologist. So it was kind of neat because we all had something different to bring and everybody had great experiences to share and will definitely, help in different ways. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Julia!
How was that, Dina?
Because she's so friendly and you made everything so easy to understand and answered all questions. You never seemed annoyed by us, which was good because I had a lot of questions. And also just meeting all of the other personalities and characters and, from everywhere who are willing to help and step up. I did enjoy, not that I really enjoyed it, but the firsthand, the call, the 911 call that you, I think it gave you an idea, because we can be told a lot of things and this is how it goes, and this is what the kids are going through, but to actually hear and to see video of an actual event, that really pulled at the heartstrings, so that made me want to do it even more.
Even with how many advocates there are, there is always a need for more.
I would tell them that it's a great program. You can really do a lot of good. No matter what your background is, there's, something a little bit for everyone. I know in the training we had all different people who were, looking to get different types of experience from it. It will definitely change the way that you look at the system. It will change the way that you see foster care in general, and the court system. And not necessarily a good or a bad way, just, change the insight that you have as to how the process works.
It's one way to make a difference in a child's life, and we all hear stories and we shake our heads and say, oh, that's terrible. But to get involved and really feel like you're making a difference will impact not only the child's life, but your own life.
I've already been doing this with some friends who are retiring. So one friend, actually, she's a speech therapist and she speaks Spanish. So I said, your skills are just used wherever. So it's just a good place to be. And you absolutely use what you have for the good.
It's an opportunity to use the skills that you have in a very helpful way, in a way that's really uncomplicated. You don't have to worry about budgets. You don't have to worry about higher ups. You just have to worry about the children, and you can use what you've always used in the service of that.
I would tell them it's probably going to be one of the most rewarding things they do, because they will see the direct impact on the child and the child's family. And while I'm all for any form of volunteering, many times you're giving to a fund or you can't really see it in action. And here you are seeing the child, watching them grow, watching them hopefully flourish in their situation. And, what's more rewarding than being able to have that direct impact?
Becoming an advocate means something different to each person, but always seems to lead to feelings of
Involved.
Useful.
I feel honored.
Empowered.
Blessed.
Resourceful.
I'd say motivated.
I feel lucky. I feel lucky that all of the experiences and training and education and just life experiences that I've had so far have led me to this. So I'm glad that I'm able to give back.
While there are many benefits for the advocates themselves, we must always remember that what we do is for the children, and more importantly, the children in need.
There are so many people that are involved in the process. So when a child enters the system, they have caseworkers, they have legal guardians, there's the judge, of course, people within the school system. There's just so many different people that come into a child's life at that moment. And at the same time, it's a moment of chaos for them internally because the life that they've known, regardless of what kind of life that was for them, is their life, and that's what they know. That's, what's comfortable for them. And so all of a sudden, they're being introduced to a new environment with all these new people, and their world is literally falling out from under them. So I think it's important that there be someone there that will stay with them throughout that process. They might get new caseworkers. They might have, different people looking in on them through the process. They might change resource homes or placements throughout their time in that process. And I think it's important that while all of that change is happening, that there's one constant person that's there to overlook the finer details of what's going on in their life, and just make sure that nothing falls through the cracks, because there's so much change happening at that time that if you don't have someone really kind of focusing on the big picture for that child, it would be easy to miss things.
So I think that they're thrown into situations they're not prepared for. They're innocent. There's a bunch of people around them that are going through their own struggles, and they may get thrown to the side and not thought of first. So I think there should be one specific person who is hearing them and looking to have their best interest at heart.
Well, many of these children don't have parents to really support them, stand up for them, and sometimes foster families have many children, and so it seems like sometimes these children needed a little extra attention and time.
It was an opportunity. Kids don't have anybody necessarily on their side only. Everybody in the system has their own vested interest, as they should, but sometimes the vested interests can compromise what's best for the child inadvertently or intentionally. And it was something attractive to me to be able to just be there without political considerations, without any other thought except what will help this kid do better in life.
CASA has made such an impact in the cases of abused or neglected children that even the judges have come to greatly accept the help that CASA provides in the cases they become involved in. The Honorable Judge Harold U. Johnson, Jr. describes what it is like to witness the cases from the judge's bench.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to go through the courses that you've gone through. And as a judge, I've had the honor of sitting here and doing these types of cases for over 15 years. Usually when you become a judge, you get the honor of serving in family, civil, criminal, and maybe even something called equity, and they've kept me in family for 15 years. And so I don't know whether that means I'm too dumb to do anything else or I'm good at what I do, and not giving myself any credit, but my joke has always been in family, you find that the truth is always somewhere between the polar extremes of what the two sides are claiming, and so it's probably somewhere in the middle, being too dumb to do anything else or good at what I do. But I just want to thank you and tell you how important you are to us, to we judges who do this work. And let me explain to you why. I think I can do it in just a minute or two if you'll bear with me. Children in court is what we call cases that are involved, where we have entered an order that removes children from their parent or parents. And what you have to understand in those cases is it's a very, very difficult time for everyone. There's a lot of emotion involved, but obviously it has a lot of impact on everybody, but especially on the children. And you are a representative of the children. And the way I like to express it is this. As a judge, I get to sit up there, and usually sitting in this seat is the Attorney General, who represents the Department of Child Protection and Permanency. Sitting next to her will be a caseworker, and then sitting usually in this seat will be a public defender representing the mother. Now sometimes you'll have another public defender representing the father. Many times you have more than one father to the children, and so you have an attorney representing the state, an attorney representing mom, an attorney representing dad number one, an attorney representing dad number two. Then the child gets an attorney. And sometimes you'll have a 16-year-old child and an 8 or 9-year-old brother, or maybe two brothers, 8 or 9 years old, but the 16-year-old has had a little more freedom than she should have had, and she has a child of her own. And so then she has to have a different lawyer than her brothers. And then the father of that child has to have a lawyer, and the child has to have their own lawyer. 8 lawyers in one case, one judge, 8 lawyers talking. Now, that happens more than I'd like to admit. And even taking away the other 2 or 3, you still got 5 or 6 lawyers in a case. And they're standing there and they're arguing law, arguing for their clients, but arguing law. You look at a case as a human. And you look at the children as a child and what's in the best interest of this child. And you're not looking at it from a legal perspective, you're looking at it from a human perspective. And sometimes it's invaluable to me because these guys aren't looking at it as much from a human perspective as you are. And so what you do for me and what you do that's so important for me and all the judges who you will work with is you provide this perspective. And it's why what you do is so important to us, because sometimes you're the sanest voice in the room. Because these guys are all, and then there's chemistry. Sometimes lawyers are arguing with each other, and you're only worried about the child. And I'm not saying that these lawyers aren't always worried about the child, but there's a much greater statistical probability they won't be, and a real high statistical probability you will be. And that's why you're so important to me.
The judge doesn't see CASA advocates as another lawyer, but as an asset to the court.
I feel very respected. He'll call out and say, okay, now we're ready to hear from the CASA. After everybody has spoken and come from, what their angle may be, then I'm able to say, okay, I'm not involved in all of this. I'm just looking for what is right for the child, and here is what I see, and he listens. And you make some recommendations and say, this is something that I would consider. And so he considers them. So you feel valued by him, and then he's looking to you to shed some light on some objectivity. What is really happening here? Because you may have a parent who may or may not know how to present themselves as plausible to the judge, may be very emotional. You may have a division worker who just sees her side and doesn't know what's really happening on the other end, because parents often are very defensive when they're working with the division. And the judge is looking to you for what's really going on here. And you do your best to say, this is what I see.
Everyone that is involved with CASA will always come out with a memory for a lifetime. The children will always remember having someone to rely on, the judge will always remember the compassion shown, and you too will have a memory you will want to share.
In this case, and I really felt for the judge because he was really trying to sort through all the things that were presented to him, but this was a family that had a history of involvement with the division and had a reputation. But families change and people change, situations change, people grow. And I felt in this case that the birth parent wasn't being seen for the growth and where she was coming from. And she almost needed an advocate as much as the child did. The child wanted to be with the mother and the mother wanted to be with the child, but they didn't know what the steps were, and maybe didn't either one of them have the skills necessary. So through my involvement as a CASA advocate, we were able to get them family therapy counseling, individual counseling. The mother learned parenting skills. She wanted to, she was ready. And then the division had to come around to see that, yes, she was. So the mother and child ended up being reunited. It was very emotional because they had worked for years to get there. And I think they got the tools that they needed to make it work.
Well, one I had a couple of years ago was an educational neglect situation. Mom was a waitress at night, she couldn't get up in the morning, and she didn't like the school, so kind of just worked through it in terms of getting the school on board and trying to see she was going to be moving. So I tried to find out what districts had good before and after care to help her with the length of the day, and just work through it with her, whatever problems came up. And eventually she did, not saying because of me or anything, but she got herself together and new relationships, and she moved, and I check in with her every so often. The kids are in school.
To see things work out for them, like our last case, which is still going on, but it's having a very positive ending. The children are all doing well, and just to see them come from where we met them to where they are today, and to know that they have a positive future waiting for them.
Together, the system helps each other to better support the children. Each team member is also to be supported by others in the program itself.
I'm new to CASA, so just even the process of going through the training and getting started, I've had a lot of support from everybody that I've met in CASA so far. So, whenever you need to reach out, have a question, they're always very quick to get back and, help you out.
I do. I have a case manager, I guess, or a peer coordinator, and her name's Kara. Kara and I have become friends in the few short months that I've been doing this. We talk all the time, and she's always there to support me. She's been with me to court several times. She's always there if I need to reach out to her via text message or email. She gets right back to me when she can. So I've never ever felt alone in the process. I've never felt that I couldn't pick up the phone and call, her or, the other people who I've come in contact with through CASA since starting the program. So it's actually become kind of, I've made friends, and, it's a good, we have a professional relationship working with the kids, but we've also, started to build friendships, and it's become a little bit like a family.
Just to the time that Michelle and Jen spend with us, anytime you have a question. There were things like I didn't know about alternative high schools, and I just one call in to Michelle, and I got it, I'll research it for you. So you absolutely feel you're always supported. You're not in this alone.
They're really good at making you feel valued. There's always support. There's always somebody to call. They're responsive when you need help or advice. Yeah, it's a great organization to work within.
I feel very valued, and I think I receive more support than what I need. So they're always offering to help. Is there anything you need? Reach out. And many times I don't respond because, no, I don't. I work pretty independently, but I feel they're always there. So yes, I feel very appreciated and valued.
Yes, I think CASA has a more humanity type of program. Everybody's on basis of being, I call it for real, and loving and care and supporting. And if you have any question or any situation, they're there to help you and support you. And you can call them anytime.
Now is the time for you to take action and join in with so many other advocates. There is a child in need of a voice that you can provide for them. Visit WeSpeakUpForChildren.org today to get started. There you will find the resources and information to get started today. Join us in our movement for 2019 with the 100 Voices for Children campaign. With training sessions held throughout the year, it is never too early or too late to join the next group of volunteers. It is time to find a voice for those who have not been served so that we can make a difference in those children's lives.